Hello friends, this video on human reproduction part 1 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Topics to be covered in this lesson are the male reproductive system, the female reproductive system, gametogenesis, menstrual cycle, fertilization and implantation, pregnancy and embryonic development, and parturition and lactation. Here in this lesson, we are exclusively going to talk about how reproduction takes place in human beings. Like in our previous lessons, in previous two lessons, we spoke about the basics of reproduction. We saw what are the different ways by which reproduction can take place, like both sexual mode as well as asexual mode. We also spoke about how sexual reproduction takes place in plants. So here in this lesson, we will see exclusively how the process of reproduction will take place in human beings. So as we all know, reproduction is the process by which living organisms produce new organisms similar to themselves. So that is why, so here while we discuss this lesson, we are entirely going to talk only about human beings, so no other animals. So in case of human beings, we all would have seen that we all are given birth by our parents, right? So basically the mother gives birth to the baby. And that is how the process continues, and that is how more and more human beings are produced on this earth. So that is the process of reproduction for human beings. So in this lesson, like how we see, it is not only something which is very exclusive to human beings, it happens in all animals, whether you talk about giraffe, elephant, fishes, birds, insects, so everywhere reproduction is there. But we are going to focus on how human reproduction occurs, because the basic concept of sexual reproduction will remain the same everywhere. The same events which we have discussed in our first lesson, where you have a gametogenesis followed by a gamete transfer, then fertilization, and then the embryo development. So those steps will be common to all the animals, but the difference lies in the structure of the reproductive system. The way a human body is organized, their reproductive system is going to be a lot different from the reproductive system of other animals like fishes or giraffe or elephant, right? Okay, so let us exclusively start discussing sexual reproduction in humans. Now, in human beings, we know that as far as the process of reproduction is concerned, there are two modes of reproduction, sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So in sexual reproduction, two parents are needed, that is a father and a mother, two parents are needed. Whereas in asexual reproduction, you just need one parent, and that one parent can give rise to new organisms. But in human beings, sexual reproduction is the only mode of reproduction. So this is the only mode. So there is no asexual reproduction in human beings. So whenever you talk about reproduction in human beings, you always need two parents. So you need a mother and a father, and both of them together will be able to give birth to a young one, whether it is a boy or a girl. So here we will see how this thing actually happens. Now, the first question that comes to our mind is the human beings can undergo sexual reproduction. But does that mean that they can sexually reproduce throughout their life? Obviously not. We discussed about the three phases in the life of every organism, whether it is a plant or an animal or human beings. So you have a juvenile phase, and then a reproductive phase, and finally the aging phase. Correct? So in human beings also, you have a specific reproductive phase, and in that reproductive phase only, the human being is capable of reproducing or capable of undergoing sexual reproduction. So in that regards, we will talk about puberty. So what is puberty? It is nothing but another term for adolescence. So you will see that when a baby is born, it is too small, right? And then the baby starts growing. It increases in height, increases in weight. It's all the body parts start increasing or growing proportionately. But after a certain age, the physical growth stops, but the reproductive growth starts, and that is when you say that the guy or the girl is actually transforming into an adult. So that intermediate phase between your childhood and adulthood is known as adolescence. So that is also known as puberty. So it is the period during which the rate of general body growth slows down. So that is, when you say general body growth, you mean the increase in weight, increase in height, those kind of things. So they all slow down. So not too much of growth in those aspects. However, the reproductive tissues start maturing. So the reproductive parts of the body start getting mature. So they start getting prepared themselves so that they can enter into the reproductive phase. So that this phase in human beings is termed as adolescence or puberty. So the period, at what age does a person enter into adolescence? Now this differs in case of males as well and in case of females. So if you talk about a human male, they generally reach their puberty at the age of around 13 to 14 years. So in the picture you can see that this is a small boy. He is actually a kid. But when this small boy reaches is around 13 to 14 years old, you actually tend to see some of the changes in that boy, which says that he is gradually trying to enter into adulthood. And that phase, when these changes start appearing for the first time, that is the adolescence or puberty. So in male it comes around when the person is 13 to 14 years old. However, in case of females, it comes a little earlier. So when the female is around 11 to 13 years old, that time certain changes are being seen. So here you can see this is a small girl. However, this is not a small girl. The girl is actually entering the adult phase. So you can actually see there are certain changes even in the physical appearance of the person when he or she enters into adolescence. Now the question is, how do we know, what are the changes that actually take place inside the body of a person when he or she enters puberty? So let us quickly look at the changes which are generally seen in an individual when he or she reaches puberty. So first let us talk about a male. So what are the changes that actually depicts that a guy is entering from the childhood phase into the adolescence? Thick hair growth under armpits and genital area. So in and surrounding of the genital area, there is quite thick hair growth. Also under the armpits. Facial hair, appearance of hair on the face, because you would have seen that if you look at babies, whether it is a baby boy or a baby girl, there is no hair on their body, not much hair on their body, especially on the face. On the face, whether it is a baby boy or a baby girl, they do not have any hair. But when you look at an adult man and a woman, you see women, they do not have much hair on their face, but men, they do have hair. So this appearance of facial hair starts when the person reaches his puberty. Change in voice, because the voice becomes more hoarse when compared to what it was when he was a kid. Occasional penis enlargement, so the penis tends to get enlarged at certain times. Similarly, in case of females, also you see a certain changes. For example, start of menstruation cycle. So every 28 days, there is a bleeding which takes place through the vaginal opening. So what is that bleeding? What is menstruation cycle? We will talk about that towards as we go ahead with this lesson. So this change this is a major change which starts in a female, and this says that she is entering into the reproductive phase. Breast enlargement, appearance of the breasts, this also gets accompanied with the menstruation cycle. Hair growth under armpits and genital area. So these are some of the changes which actually tell that a person, whether a male or a female, is reaching puberty or adolescence. Now once they enter adolescence, that means that they have entered into the reproductive phase of their life. So once a human being is into the reproductive phase, then he or she is capable of undergoing sexual reproduction. So this is the time, when a female is more than 11 or 13 years old and a male is around 13-14 years old. So generally by that time they reach adolescence, and after that they enter into the reproductive phase of their life. So now let us look at the process of the sexual reproduction. That is how the sexual reproduction actually take place. Now, from our knowledge on the basics of sexual reproduction, we know that it is nothing but a series of a couple of events. Like the first thing is gametogenesis. Now, wherever we talk about sexual reproduction, what do we say? We say that in sexual reproduction, we need a male, we need a female, and there will be gametes being produced from both the male and the female, and those gametes will fuse together to form a new organism. Correct? So now, in order that the gametes have to fuse, first of all, the gametes need to be produced, and that is what happens in gametogenesis. That is, this is the stage where gametes are formed. The male gamete and the female gametes are formed. Now, once the gametes are formed, then the gametes need to meet in order to fuse. So that transfer of gametes, so that they both can meet and they can fuse together, that comes under gamete transfer. Then happens the fertilization. That is the main step of sexual reproduction. So in this fertilization step, the actual fusion between the male gamete and the female gamete takes place. And this in turn is followed by the formation of a zygote. Now, when the male gamete and the female gamete fuse, so first of all, the male gamete and the female gamete, they are formed. Now, the male gamete and the female gamete are transferred in such a way that they both meet. Now, once they meet, the male and the female gamete, they fuse together. Now, once they fuse together, they form a new cell, which is called zygote. Then what happens to that zygote? That zygote has to gradually grow and develop into an embryo, and that embryo should gradually develop into a new individual. So these are the 4 steps which completes the entire process of sexual reproduction in human beings. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.